As operating experience has shown, the corrosion resistance of 935 bodies is at the proper level, but the condition of some body parts causes comments. Thus, experts recalled that prior styling versions up to 2013. Not everything is in order with the outside handle of the driver's door. You pull it, but the door does not unlock, the headlights may fog up. In addition, there are problems with the red paintwork of the car, rear parking sensors, and rear view cameras. An important advantage of the model is its high safety. It has 5 stars according to the 2010 Euro NCAP crash tests. The interior is also decorated to match the stylish appearance. 5 crew members, even tall ones, will be comfortable inside. However, there are complaints about visibility and workmanship. Expensive versions of the 935 can surprise with options that were previously inherent in models from higher market segments: keyless entry and engine start, panoramic roof, heated not only front but also rear seats, adaptive headrests, rain and light sensors, etc. The line of 935 power units presented includes only 2-liter gasoline and diesel engines, while the related Sportage was offered with another diesel engine 1.7 liters. Crossovers equipped with the new family of GDI 1.6 and 2.4-liter gasoline engines with a direct fuel injection system were also not supplied to our country. According to the mechanics of the branded service station, in prior styling versions of gasoline engines with runs of 100 to 150,000 kilometers, where the timing balancer shafts was noted, which is accompanied by increased vibration during engine operation. However, similar symptoms can also be caused by slippage of the balancer shaft chain due to problems with the hydraulic tensioner caused by untimely oil changes. According to factory recommendations, the branded lubricant in all 935 engines must be updated every 15,000 kilometers, but if you use non-original oil, it is recommended to reduce the interval to 10,000 kilometers. Typical problems have also been identified in diesel units. The glow plug relay has failed, the engine does not start, and the turbine boost pressure sensor has failed. The check engine light comes on and power is lost. A common problem common to both engines: possible loss of tightness of the oil pan gasket. This is where the list of problems with 935 engines ends. The timing chains are durable, used in both units. Individual ignition coils and the variable valve timing system, petrol, work reliably. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what brakes and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro. Separately, it is worth noting the turbo diesel versions of the crossover, which have recently become more popular than their gasoline counterparts. Solar engines attract buyers with their higher fuel efficiency. For example, with mechanics the consumption is 7 liters per 100 m in the urban cycle versus 10 to 11 liters for a gasoline unit. Turbo diesel versions also have better torque and dynamics. For all-wheel drive cars, acceleration to hundreds takes 9.8 seconds, while for similar gasoline engines it takes only 10.7 seconds. Manual and automatic gearboxes are found on the ix35 in almost equal proportions. Both units create virtually no problems. Only cars of the first years with automatic transmissions, in which the oil supply pipe to the oil cooler fell off, could be disturbed. The lubricant in both boxes must be changed every 90,000 kilometers. All-wheel drive versions of the 935 are most widespread, although modifications with drive only to the front axle are not uncommon. The crossover has plug-in all-wheel drive. The rear wheels are engaged using an electronically controlled center clutch when the front wheels slip. To overcome difficult sections of roads, the clutch can be locked forcibly using the lock button on the dashboard, and then the torque will be distributed between the axles in a strict proportion 50:50. When the speed reaches 30 km per hour, the lock is disabled and the transmission switches back to automatic mode. And all 4x4 versions are equipped with a typical off-road function, a hill descent system. However, in fairness, we note that, Despite some similarity with the predecessor Tucson all-wheel drive transmission, the emphasis of the i35 is shifted to the passenger side. This concerns ground clearance and suspension settings, but we will talk about them a little later. During operation, all-wheel drive can cause trouble. Thus, corrosion was noted, and then eating of the splines of the intermediate support of the right axle shaft. The mechanics also recalled cases of lubricant leakage from the center coupling. If it is not repaired in time, the unit completely fails, as well as more rare failures of the electric motor of the same coupling. In addition, on cars manufactured before 2011, after 50,000 kilometers, the outboard bearing of the drive shaft fails, which is indicated by an increased hum when driving. The fact that the character of the 935 will differ from the behavior of the Tucson is evidenced by its ground clearance reduced by 20 mm, total 175 mm. In a different chassis setup, it is stiffer and more compact, which provides the crossover with a car-like behavior. It is much more pleasant to actively drive it. But outside of smooth roads it shakes noticeably, which reduces ride comfort. Structurally, both suspensions are independent, with stabilizers. The front is McPherson, and the rear is multi-link. The main complaints from mechanics concern the short service life of some rear suspension parts. Thus, floating silent blocks of transverse levers operate in the region of 60,000 kilometers. The rear springs often sag, and the mounting bolts securing the longitudinal rod in the rear axle may also break. The peculiarity of the operation of shock absorbers, front and rear, is that they can knock during temperature changes and, on average, can withstand a mileage of 70 to 80,000 kilometers. But the remaining parts of the rear multi-link take a long time to take care of, around 150,000 kilometers. And there are no complaints about the front end at all. The ball joints of the front arms and their rear silent blocks can last 80 to 100,000 kilometers, the front ones, 150,000 kilometers. Stabilizer consumables also have a good service life. The front struts last 40 to 50,000 kilometers, and the bushings, 60 to 80,000 kilometers. The rear rubber bands last a little longer. Expensive versions of the 935 were equipped with a tire pressure monitoring system. When reshoeing or repairing the tires of such a car, it is imperative to warn tire service workers about the presence of this system and the need to carry out the work very carefully. The fact is that there are often cases when, during unqualified tire fitting, would-be mechanics break off the spool on which the pressure sensor is installed, and such a part is not cheap. There are also complaints about the reliability of the steering, equipped with an electric booster. By the mileage of 80,000 kilometers, the rack bushing or the gear rack engagement wears out, as evidenced by a characteristic knocking sound when driving over uneven surfaces. The tips and rods can withstand 70 to 100,000 kilometers. In the braking system, the brake pedal limit switch may fail, which is why in versions equipped with a keyless engine start system, it will not start. The rear view camera is not reliable and may fail after several years of winter use of the car due to oxidation of the electronic filling. On red cars, peeling of the varnish on the bumpers and hood is more common. The all-wheel drive transmission can be a problem. One of its weak components is the interaxle electronically controlled clutch. Failure of the rear parking sensors and oxidation of the electrical connector for their connection were noted.